Yeah. So how can we as parents make sure that as we're discipling our kids, we're discipling the whole
You got
person
it.
to follow and honor Jesus? How can we do that?
Oh my gosh. I think we got to
Do we have time?
No, we don't. And we need more smarter people than me
Yeah.
in here to figure that out. But I do think, like for me, it's really making sure we're paying attention to what's going on with our kids. One of the ways that I said it, kind of during the pandemic, our church kind of did what a lot of churches did, create a lot of content online for people to watch and people to kind of consume, if you will, at home, right? We're watching church services and we're creating, videos for kids and teenagers, whatever. And I remember talking to a parent on a Zoom group during that, and she was thankful for what we were providing as a church, but what she said is, what I really need is connection, right? I need connection to my church. And I just started thinking, how do we apply that to parenting? And I think with our kids, what we need, we're good at providing content from like a very early age. Here's how you kind of tie your shoe. Here's what you got to do to kind of be successful in school. Here's how you got to, hit the ball if you're going to be on the team, whatever. Like we're nonstop as parents providing content. What our kids really want is connection. So to answer your question is, we have to be connected to our kids relationally in such a way that we know what's really going on in their heart. And as church leaders, I think we need to drive parents to understand that, to really talk about the importance of the depth of relationships, to really help them realize, okay, like this worldly quote-unquote success that I just mentioned that so many parents strive towards, it's not really that important. Like for me, I've sort of changed the target on parenting. The bullseye for me is my kids get to their 20s, and they're healthy in those 4 areas that we kind of talked about, right? And so as church leaders, I think in order to kind of pay attention to all of this, we've got to drive people towards relationships. And if we can drive people towards relationships more and more, then we have the opportunity, especially with our kids, to share the most important relationship. And that is our relationship with God, and really help them unpack the gospel.
Yeah. I think we all have baggage in some form or fashion.
Preach.
Some we have dealt with, some we haven't. Some we haven't acknowledged,
Yeah.
right? What are some ways that we can ensure that our kids honor God in every way, even with the way they handle difficult situations that someone might be labeling them as, oh, that could be baggage,
Yeah.
There are situations that we can't keep our kids from.
Oh, yeah.
And so we want to equip them, like you're saying,
Yeah.
to handle those moments and to walk through those with them.
Yes.
What are things that we can do that maybe you can equip some parents with right now to say, hey, if your child is walking through something, if you see things like that you're concerned about, here are some steps, some things that you need to do.
I would say number one is recognize they're not always going to honor God as they walk through those situations. I think sometimes as Christian parents, we can set up the expectation that, hey, we think they understand the gospel. Maybe they've been baptized. Maybe they are, in youth group. Maybe they're reading their Bible. Like they're on the journey of faith. And so therefore they're going to honor God in all they do. Well, no, they're not, right? Because I don't.
Right. Yeah.
And so to expect my, teenager or my young kid to do that is setting the bar, I think, too high. And that's where grace comes in. And so being able to sort of build your home around sort of the culture of grace is what I would say. That's not that you're not holding them accountable for things that they're doing and you're not, having the right conversations and challenging them. However, you have to lead with that grace, which again goes back to the connection and the relationships. If all I care about is behavior modification, they're not going to, they're not going to modify their behavior in the long run, and B, they're not going to understand the gospel and grace. And so as a parent, I got to back off a little bit, recognize that they're not going to always honor God. But then I would say you have to be consistent as a parent in the way that you try to honor God. That's the biggest thing that teaches them is when you try to do it yourself. One of the biggest things that I hear from teenagers in my church sometimes is that, mom and dad bring me here and they want me to learn this stuff and they want me to get it, but they're not really living it out at home. And so it's just so confusing for kids, especially when they get into their teenage years. And so sort of modeling what it means to be a follower of Jesus, modeling what it means to ask for forgiveness, modeling what it means to try to, encourage other people all along the way. That is the most sort of practical thing I think we can do as parents in order to help our kids see it. And really what it comes down to, and it's one of the bags, it comes down to identity. and trying to help our kids grab onto an identity of I am a child of God. Like we actually went through that exercise with our kids. It was a dinner table conversation, and I was kind of trying to test out, say, hey, like how what are they thinking with this? And I had them fill in the blank. I want you to fill in the blank. I am blank. Like was he going to say I am a football player? Was she going to say I'm a good student? Like what were they going to say? What I want them to say is I am a child of God. That's the identity that they live from in everything they do. Well, guess what? If I want them to say that, I have to be able to say that. And I have to live that out. So, long answer, like the practical thing to do is to live out your identity in Christ and model it in front of them.
Yeah.